Hey, welcome to the Simple Talk podcast. We're the advocates at Redgate. We have Steve.
Hello.
Grant.
Hey.
Myself, Ryan. And we are here to talk today about AI in the database space.
Yeah.
And generally, just how it's impacting our lives and what we've been doing. Those things. So,
Nobody's using AI.
no one's using AI, right?
Well, everybody's talking about AI, right? It's in every headline.
Every single headline.
You know, it was fascinating. I was in San Francisco recently, and we go through the airports and we walk around the city and stuff, and it's a tech hub.
Sure.
So there's advertisements and billboards, and everybody says AI, like in the BART subway, in the billboards
AI
on the
something.
highway.
Yeah.
AI is, everything is AI.
Well, you were just telling me about something really cool you did in San Francisco that I'm sure uses a ton of AI. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, I'll have to post a video on my
Okay.
blog or something. But so my wife and I actually were down at Fisherman's Wharf, and we saw all these Waymo cars going by. So they use these white electric Jaguars, and they have all these sensors on top of them, and they're completely autonomous. There's nobody in the car.
Really?
And you can download the Waymo app. And so my wife and I actually did that and booked a ride back to the hotel, just like an Uber or Lyft. And I was showing Ryan the video. It's kind of fascinating that
Wow.
this car drives up like an Uber, but there's nobody in it. And you get in, and the car drives you away. And it was pretty amazing. Like
That's creepy.
I was very impressed.
Wow.
I was incredible. If you get the chance to book a Waymo, book it. It was fascinating.
Yeah, okay, I would do that.
That kind of tech really is fascinating. I was telling you, I mean, but it's not infallible, right?
It's not
Like,
infallible.
I saw another video of a Waymo that happened to turn into the wrong lane of traffic.
Yeah.
No accident, ended up pulling into a parking lot because I think they realized something was wrong. And of course, the policeman came up and had to talk to a person on a window rolls down. There's no one there. So they have to talk to this person remotely,
Yeah.
and they're kind of slightly delayed asynchronous conversation.
Yeah, and
very, very funny.
It did have buttons in there, like you could say pull over or contact somebody or something. Like there are ways to do something, but the car drives itself and did an amazing job.
That's wild.
job.
Very cool. Very cool.
That's neat.
All right, so that's a pretty extreme use of AI.
That was a cool use of AI.
Very, very
That
cool
is-
use,
that is really
and
cool
all the
use.
stuff that's being fed in for, because those are all built on models. I mean, that
Those
is
are all
part of
built-
the
it's
AI,
all-
right?
it's all models, yeah.
Everything about how Tesla drives and those drive. It's about knowing the situation, having enough input of all the different kinds of things and ways that the situations the car needs to respond to. So
Because it's all about making predictions, right?
it is all about making predictions based on what you know. Yeah.
So what about AI in the data world or tech world as we use it, right? Like I know you said you don't use it very much. Grant, you said you do use it, right?
I've been using it a lot.
So how do you use it? Like where does it work well?
Well, I mean, it's kind of all over the map. I mean, but one thing that that I've done a few times now, and it's going to make it into a presentation, definitely.
The presentation that you were hoping wasn't going to
Yes,
be
I
picked
was
is
hoping
now
it wasn't
picked.
going to get picked. That got picked. Yes, I put together an abstract on AI, and now it's been picked, and I have to put together a presentation on AI. But anyway, one of the things I've been doing is when I want to dummy out some data really quickly, but I don't want it to be dummy data. I want it to be actual, real data. I've been typing into AI and saying, create an insert statement for a table that looks like this, and use this type of data. And the instance, one instance that I did was I said, I want to generate a list of radios. And so I said, give me the top 20 most popular ham radios.
Oh, interesting.
And the search engine goes out. I'm not search engine. The AI goes out. It gets the top 20 ham radios. It laid out all the data in the columns that I told it to put it into.
That's really cool.
And it did it flawlessly.
Which is this Copilot or which?
This
which
was
tool?
Copilot.
Copilot. Okay.
Yeah, I've been using Copilot quite a lot. After Bob Ward, here's a throw a name. On the airplane with Bob Ward, he starts showing me Copilot, like how he's using Copilot to do stuff, and I was just like, all right, I've got to explore this more right now. And so and it worked.
I've done a little bit of that too. Like I haven't used it a ton, mostly as I've been too busy. After I built an AI bot this spring, I was too busy. But I have used the PromptAI, right? So Redgate software, we have PromptAI now.
Announced last year at Summit.
Announced last year, and it's in EAP or beta.
Yep.
But I've used it for a similar thing. Like I said, create me a table for an e-commerce system, right? And so it actually, or tables, and it actually created me like customers' orders, order details. Like it did a good job of setting these up. And I said, give me some sample data for these tables. And it actually gave me insert statements with multiple rows that looked as good as anything I would do by myself, you know, typing stuff in. So I do think there's some value in doing that work that feels tedious, but you're not, like you kind of know what you want, but you don't really.
Well, or you know what you want, but you don't want to spend the time. You just don't want to spend the time putting it together, right? I mean, that's to me. That's
but it's got to be a tedious thing.
I could have written all the insert statements myself. The AI didn't do anything I couldn't have done. It did it
faster,
quickly.
Yeah, but I think one of the things I say when Ryan and I were chatting earlier is that if you kind of know what the shape of what things you want to do with a table, the AI is slower because it's like you asking, a junior person next to you to do this, and then you're like, change this.
It does take a little while, and it took me a little while to train myself in how to tell the AI.
Well, that's it, right? So understanding how to actually set up a prompt and set up the session so that it's responding in the way that you're hoping that you want it to do, right?
Yeah.
You have to say, I'm a SQL Server expert,
yes.
and it's this kind of data that we're using, and you understand this kind of thing, and then you start to really get.
Of course, it was Postgres that I was using.
I've done that too.
But it is helpful there. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, because I let's just tell a horror story. My very first time using the AI a year ago, the very first time, the question I asked it was, what are the top tips to make Query Store work well in SQL Server? And it came back and it gave me a series of tips. Most of them were very good, but there was one tip that I was like, what's this? And it said make sure that your Query Store is only 10% of the size of your production database. I'm like,
interesting.
Where did this come from? And so I'm like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's the very first thing I said. It's like, where did this come from? And it said, oh, well, and it gave me out this long, wordy answer. And I'm like, yeah, okay, but that doesn't, one, there's a whole bunch more things wrong in the answer.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, no. Where exactly did you get this? And then it listed out, and it said,
some random blog.
Well, no, it wasn't random blogs. It was like Penal Dave and
Interesting.
Aaron Stellato, a whole bunch of names that we know, and it gave me links to their blogs, and the links were all bad. They were all wrong. It was hallucinating freely.
Really?
Yeah. So I had something similar.
Full-blown hallucination, and it took me 3 questions.
Interesting.
So I was trying something like one things I've done. So I assume you've all used Edge lately, right? So in Edge you can open up like a Copilot window on the side.
Oh yeah,
right?
Oh yeah, I've been doing
that. I had that open. I remember what it was because I was talking to Ryan about this. That I wanted to know if I could get a DDL trigger on a restore event. Right. So I asked the AI, and it came back and said, "Absolutely right. You can do these trigger things." And I was like, "I don't see that documented." And so I asked a couple questions, and it gave me what looked plausible, but it wouldn't run. And so I actually had to go ask a few MVPs. I was like, can I actually do this on a restore event? They're like, you cannot do this. That doesn't exist in the product.
Right.
So it was one of those things that I was like, wow, this is really hallucinatory. Yeah. But then somebody told me that you can switch there's a slider, right? You can say more accurate or less or faster or something else. Yeah. They're like, you can't do the fast one because it will hallucinate more than the quality one, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, but I just keep finding it useful. I mean, another thing I did recently, Ryan and I are working on a book, and I'm kind of learning a lot of the stuff as I'm writing the book, which is weird, but it's kind of how you do it. I mean, I learned all kinds of stuff when I was writing the Query Tunings book. So, but what I went to the AI for was like I was just kind of unsure about an outline, and so I went to the AI and I said, I'm writing a book on Postgres. Here's the topic. Give me an outline. And I asked it like 2 or 3 different ways, and I got, of course, 2 or 3 different outlines. But what it gave me was like it gave me enough that I went, oh yeah, okay. And I didn't use them. I didn't use them at all. Yeah. But I used them as a basis for the outline that I did make. Right. Because it did give me enough information laid out in a logical fashion that, again, I didn't use the AI work at all. But it did help me get
We
my
ended up
brain
having
together.
conversations about most of those things, so I know it was good. Yeah.
But I think that's where it is like it produces advanced beginner intermediate level stuff often. That's what I see from the quality standpoint.
Yeah.
Right, because we've had a few marketing people, somebody actually came to me for a session at Summit and they said, I've got this title and abstract, and they said I use ChatGPT to generate, what do you think? And I was like, it's a good start, right? Like I would change some things, I would reword some things, but it was a good start.
I think what I'm finding more, because the tools that we're starting to explore within Redgate are the AI tools, ChatGPT, Copilot within all the Office things.
Yes.
And so whether it be email, whether it be a longer document that I'm working on someone with, those are the times where I start to see a lot of value in, there's this thread, I don't know, summarize it. Those kinds of things have been helpful to pull out main points. Not always perfect, but helpful. Same thing with the document. I collaborated, I think it was something with Lewis recently, and he sent me something to review, and I said, okay, I've given it a quick skim. It's like 8 pages, and there's some stuff. Give me the first summary so I can make sure I understand what's happening. What this thing is about.
Well, that's what Bob was doing with it. Bob initially, because he was working on. What's he do? He does markup for putting together all his slides for his presentations.
Right.
And then he was like, give me a summary of this section. Give me a summary of this section. And the AI was doing a fantastic job of reading through the work that he did. And then summarizing it. He'd go in and do a couple little edits and stuff, but it was amazing. I mean, it blew me away.
I mean, it's interesting because I haven't done it in a while, but I think last year, Chat 3.5 was out, kind of. Like I had pointed out some blog posts and stuff and said, summarize this, and I was very disappointed.
Underwhelmed.
In the type of summary. So I do think the thing I hate about it is that you kind of got to double check what it does.
Oh, I don't trust it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean,
So
I got lied to again just recently. I was trying to figure out how to
got lied to. It's
the
purposeful.
AIs are lying, just like humans.
Well, I'm told, someone corrected me, said, no, a lie is malicious, and this isn't malicious. I'm like, well, it feels malicious. So the AI hallucinated again. I was trying to get a very, I don't want to say advanced, but an esoteric thing inside of extended events, something I didn't know if I could do. And so I went to the AI there, to drill into to see if, because what I found was like a lot of times when you're doing just a search engine, you really have to know what to do to get a good answer out of a search engine. You kind of have to have a good idea already.
Well, and it has to be in your space, right? So like extended events, your searches will be different than a lot of their people's.
True.
Right? Because Google's learned a little bit about what you need.
Yeah.
And half the stuff that comes up on Google would be pointing to you anyway.
Pointing to my stuff. But when I get stuck on I don't know how to ask a good question, and then have to scroll through 3 pages of stuff.
Yeah.
I find that asking the AI, even if it doesn't give me a good answer, it puts me in the right direction. But it's still, it's like you said, basic and intermediate is pretty good, but as soon as you get advanced or esoteric, it falls away very fast.
You both said this, but what I do appreciate about using something like ChatGPT over Google, because again, I think we would all say we can probably get really close to an answer really quickly with Google, right?
Sure.
And we can scan the first 10, that's the thing that's going to help me most, and get in most of the time. I do love the iteration though, and I think that is something I've been getting more used to, saying, how do I do this? I know how to do it, I'm pretty close. Oh, interesting. So now what about this? Could you change this? And just that fast iteration, which you can't get through as easily through like a Stack Overflow post, and which is where you end up on.
It's hard to refine your search at Google or Bing, right? Like it's hard to refine it because everyone's independent. And I do think that
I'll have so many tabs open.
So many tabs.
Because I'm doing the search 5 different ways, and I've got results from those, and then results from the other one, and then I'm comparing and contrasting.
Yeah, I think it's easy to get frustrated that it doesn't. We're used to searching in Google, and it feels faster in Google. But I think over time, when you learn how to build these prompts, it is a little bit better at summarizing stuff down. And I notice now, like in Google now, most of my searches have an AI-generated thing at the top, and then the results below that.
I use Bing for my search engine. I'm the one, but Copilot's always on there.
Yeah.
And so it's like if I'm not happy with the searches I got, I will go right to Copilot.
And the other thing about having Bing is it's just super fast and easy to make graphics that, go with a blog post that make it cute and funny. Oh, sorry, that's probably not what we're
I haven't done that really, I have to say.
So in the Postgres space, it's just amazing how many thousands of different blog image headers that you can do with an elephant. It's shocking to me and how cool they are. So I guess the other thing, to speak about Postgres, that's what is really taken over in the last couple of months, maybe last year, is we've talked about how Postgres is extendable and you can, all these different things, can create almost a new database. And so there are a number of companies that are creating extensions or creating a service where it is literally Postgres with an extension that allows it to be a vector database. And so you can insert all your data and you can have it scan whatever table to help do embedding so that you can start to do actual searches, SQL queries that are LLM, large language model driven kind of queries. It's really, and it's a huge topic right now.
And there's a couple
trying
of
to
AI,
make it faster.
There's another couple of AI extensions that are being built to help DBAs and stuff. And they're pretty slick. I mean, it's that's the cool thing about Postgres is the extensions are it's a game changer.
And I think just the value of it, seeing it just in 1 year, we're talking about iterations, just in 1 year, even in that space.
Oh yeah.
What the extension has done, the speed at which they've improved the 3 different kind of indexes you can use, and it's where is this going to go?
Great
where
question.
are we getting, what we will be able to do even within an app with SQL, it's just shocking me. It is
cool.
fun to watch.
Microsoft,
they have one as well. That's been a number of the demos they did.
I know. I love it. I really do love it. But I, having been hallucinated at, is that better than saying lied to?
Yeah.
Having been hallucinated at, I don't trust it. I just don't. It's not that I mistrust it, but I have to verify the information coming out of it. I can't simply take it as written. But it does do a lot of a lot of simple stuff. I do a lot of radio programming and some Arduino stuff. And again, go into the AI and say, this is the chip that I'm programming to. This is the controller that I'm programming. Right. Give me some damn code that works. And it comes back with functional code most of the time.
Intermediate. Okay. So that's an interesting thing though, Grant, right? So you're moving into an area where you don't know things, right? How do you evaluate what you get back from the AI as valid, quality?
Well, when I literally don't know, I have to test. That's the only way I can do it.
But you still don't know about efficiency, right?
No, it could be the crappiest code on earth. It's still, I've got functional code at home that I have no idea
if it's good or bad. Yeah,
absolutely. It just works.
No, I get it.
Which I think is the interesting thing, right? Because I think the sensible thing, right? If we think about, I know we've been talking for a while, but the sensible way to use AI is that you need some way to evaluate what comes out. Just like if I had hired a new person and allowed them to do some work, I would want to evaluate what they had done in some way.
Somehow.
And I think when you're in a space where you're a Bob Ward, you're an expert and you're asking it to help me do some things, it's useful. But when you're in a space, like if you were working in a place where I'm trying to program these things for a company, right? It's our business. Then
I might be doing some bad stuff.
Or you might have to go, I need to hire somebody that really knows this stuff to evaluate what all of us junior people are building.
Sure.
To say if it's good or bad, right?
No, absolutely true. You've been mentioning, we haven't specifically said the concerns about AI currently in our space, whether it's just general usage, database usage, the way that it's being used. So you've mentioned a lot about hallucinations.
Yeah.
And just quickly talk about what is that and why does it happen?
Well, the whole thing about an AI is that they have to give you an answer that, for whatever reason, they can't just say, I don't know.
Well, they're kind of trained that they're motivated to give an answer.
Right,
So they're always trying to give you an answer.
They always try to give you an answer. And so when it doesn't have a complete answer, because it's just a word prediction engine, it's just predicting what the next word probably is, even though it's not true.
Yeah, I would say more like maybe it's a sentence prediction engine or
Yeah,
right, like it's
sure.
a paragraph, like it's more than words. It's kind of
Yeah. I mean, it's very sophisticated.
Or even to the extent,
I'm
right?
not
Even
trying
to the
to
extent
minimize
of,
it.
like you said, that one example. Surely there were those articles. Somehow it had the wrong links, but there was content. I'm assuming.
No,
somewhere.
No. It had made it all up.
Oh, none of those people.
yeah,
had the
yeah.
content?
I mean, the same thing
No,
for me.
no, that
Oh,
content
okay.
wasn't real.
Like, okay.
I contacted everybody.
Yeah.
I reached out to Kendra.
Okay,
and said,
that's a whole new level.
Did
then.
you write anything around this?
Yeah.
And it's like, no.
Yeah, like for me, right, with
Wow,
for their
that's
store event, like it just that capability doesn't
Yeah,
exist.
doesn't exist.
So it was looking at DDL commands, right, of which there's all these, right,
There's a lot of
backup, restore,
documentation
create,
on
right,
it, yeah.
and then there's triggers, and I can see in the Microsoft documentation that you'd have to go make sure that restore is or is not
Right.
part of that, but you could get confused because even I've done it a lot of times. I was like, well, maybe you can do
I'm
this.
not sure if
thing.
this is possible. Yeah.
Well, and the most recent hallucination with the extended events, I caused it.
Yeah.
Because I kept digging and I started supplying information to it, going, well, can't you use this column?
Yes.
And the AI is like, well, yeah, you can use that column, and plugged it in. And I'm like, okay, well, let's try that code out. Well, that doesn't work. Yeah.
Well, the other thing that, not just hallucinations, you and I were talking about this earlier, is the reality that this is all such new ground.
Yes.
And we're talking about taking in billions of pages of data from who knows where, depending on the
Yes.
model. And in our tech space, in a space like this where we're all trying to start to do this, and there's some of this really technical stuff that is not as well known. So the sample that it has to work from is smaller. But then if people are adding to that content using the model, it just becomes like the self-referencing thing. And how does the model grow or not?
Right.
And I think that becomes part of that hallucination thing then. It's like someone adds a little tweak to this content thinking it makes sense, and it just changes the meaning or the opportunity to make that correlation.
My concern, my only real concern with AI, and this is, I'm serious, the only real concern, I mean, obviously, validate the information that it gives you. I'm wondering where junior DBAs are going to come from. I shouldn't say that. I'm wondering where mid-tier to senior DBAs are going to come from. Because in very short order, we're not going to need junior DBAs.
Yeah.
Because the junior DBA is going to be AI. That's going to, a lot of, back up this database. I guarantee you it's going to do a good job. I guarantee it. Restore this database. It's going to do a good job. You know what I mean? There's a lot of functionality that we do today as when we're learning that the AI is going to take over. And so now our learning curve is going to be bigger because we're going to have to do more to get past the AI.
Yeah,
Interesting.
so it's an interesting thing. I mentioned that to show notes, but Gene Kim actually wrote about this recently that he had a friend working in a legal law firm, right? And what they're finding is that the AIs can produce a ton of work that the senior partners can review, right, and use. And so they're finding less use for associates.
Right.
And so the problem is in a decade, there's no associates that become senior partners.
Right, yeah. Where the
and
senior partners come from,
retire.
there's no associates.
Yeah, and I saw a similar thing about junior developers too, that it's potentially a problem in that we will have less need for some of those people, and how do they grow when senior people can do their work. I'm less concerned about that because I think, so for Grant, you and I are at 30 plus years of IT stuff, there's no shortage of work.
No,
Right.
work hasn't slowed down, not yet.
The work exceeds the people now.
Right.
So maybe AI allows us to catch up on work, but I don't know if it reduces the need that we don't need junior developers because there's just too much work.
Yeah, could be.
Right.
Yeah, I just don't know, but I'm just saying that
Yeah.
of all the concerns I have around AI, to me, that's the big one.
Yeah.
I just feel like that there's a possibility that it sort of eliminates a layer that we have today that we kind of need.
Yeah.
But that's one thing that I know I've talked about a lot when it comes to even these communities. It's teaching people to think about how to do something. So an example being AI, Microsoft's using it, other people are using it within a database to do things like suggest indexes, suggest tunings, or maybe just do it automatically. But eventually, if it's just that, you lose the knowledge of why does that need to be done, or how could you improve it? which I think is really valuable because it helps in the understanding of the tech.
So I somewhat agree with you, but here's what I would also say, Ryan, is that I think of the most people I know, they're not good at that stuff anyways, right? So,
okay,
right.
That's good.
Crew tuning's hard.
To be fair, right?
It
Like,
is.
I think
It's
it's very
hard.
hard. I think there's relatively few people that are really good at it and really understand it well,
Okay.
right? Just across the world in organizations.
No, that makes sense.
And so the few people will still learn that stuff because they will use the AI, but then they'll dig in why.
They'll have to.
And most of the people that will use the AI may get slightly better because they weren't digging in, didn't really know it that well in the first place.
Okay.
Right.
So-
Yeah, it's the people who are
That's a
like,
good point.
oh, I rebuilt
Yeah.
the index and everything's faster. It's like, you updated the statistics.
Yeah.
Everything's faster.
Yeah, so I'm less concerned in our industry because I think our work overwhelms the people now. I think legal firms, I think there are some industries where they may have legitimate concerns. The AI, I think marketing departments, right, like where we've got junior copy people and stuff. I think the AIs might really hurt some of those industries more. But for us, we're overwhelmed. I think at least in the foreseeable future, the AI is helpful. I also think you have to learn how to use the AI
You do have to learn
and
how
do
to use it.
prompts because it just makes you a better tech professional, and you're competing for jobs, and you need
makes sense.
to be good at that.
It's another tool in the toolbox.
It's another tool.
Absolutely.
All right, well, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. There's one thing we do want to mention. You probably be listening to this, we think, in August of 2024. Redgate's opening up for the second year in a row the State of the Database Landscape survey. So we did it last year. We released the initial results at Past Summit. So it's a little bit later this year, and we'll be starting to process the data in the beginning of 2025. But AI is going to be a big part of that survey because it's just such a big part of what we do, and we want to understand and help others understand how you're using it. So please go to redgate.com/survey, and that should get you to the State of Database Landscape survey starting in August. And it'd just be great to get your feedback. We had thousands of responses last year, and it's so helpful to start to understand literally what is changing about the landscape of our jobs and the way that we use these tools. So please consider doing that. We would love to just get that feedback from you.
And we publish
And then
the
it's
results
all published. It's
for
all
free.
available for free. And so we'd love to contribute so we can all help understand what's happening. All right, Steve.
All right, thanks.
Grant?
Thanks for listening.
Hey.
Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you in another episode soon.